It doesn't really faze me too much because it's not something major we talk about in society at this point, and it's not really a prominent, culture thing you hear being spoken of. So I am familiar with it, and I do have friends in different areas such that, but it's not a major topic in my head.
Hawaii, Guam, and I'm not Australian, native Australian populations, South Pacific, regionally, I think. I really don't know. I want to preface this. I really don't know, and
I really don't know what that is, honestly.
Hawaii also? Like hula skirts and like the coconut bras. Yeah.
It's not on the radar of the average American. Yeah, they provide us with linebackers for the NFL, Junior Seau.
Especially Samoa.
Yeah. Yeah. If you know your team, that's where most Americans would know something current going on there. That Guam has become the major American military base in the Pacific. You've got to be a military buff to know that. If it came to an ethnic breakdown of the region, I don't think one American in 500 would know the terms Micronesia and Melanesia. There's this void between Hawaii and Australia, which was probably filled in part, curiously enough, by a totally lunatic appreciation of it, lost. I know people, including myself, who after the first 2 episodes sat down and tried to figure out what island the plane had landed on. And yeah, and if you, I suspect a fair number of Americans, if you ask them, what was the what they have seen of a South Pacific island lately, they might come up with the island on Lost.
So far, we have explored the histories of the great cultures of this world. We have followed the stories of the achievements of the most civilized of people. The Greeks, the Romans, the European empires that followed, including France and Great Britain. We have taken a look at the triumphs of the great American empire, from the American Revolution to the present. Indeed, we had time for the Chinese and the Japanese, but now we must discuss the savages of the people of Africa, the American Indians, and the Oceanic people. We won't be spending too much time on these, people. I just wish to illustrate the great differences between them and the more civilized people who we just studied.
What do you mean with savages?
Oh, you know what I mean. Savages are those who have not achieved high levels of culture, learning, and arts. Now, we will begin the studies of the primitive people of the Oceanic region. Let us first examine the head-hunting brutes of the Malaya archipelago.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Hey,
What's up? What are we talking about today?
we're just talking about, like, savages.
Savages.
Yeah, savages.
Is that what Eduardo and the professor are arguing about?
Yeah, basically, we're just learning about the savages of the American Indians, the Oceanic people in Africa,
The Oceanic people?
Yeah, that's one of my people.
Yeah, you're talking about the Malaya Polynesian people.
Yeah.
So he called our people savages, right?
That's what the professor said.
And what do you think about that?
I really don't know.
You don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
He called you a savage, and you don't know what to say.
I really don't know what to think of my people. Like, I haven't learned anything from them.
Maybe you mean to tell me that your parents haven't told you anything about, your culture, your heritage?
They just think it's not that important. You know?
What are you saying? Like they don't think that you can get anywhere?
Exactly.
Well, let me tell you something, man. Our ancestors were actually great explorers, great adventurers. They opened up and expanded into a region where few had gone before, and few ever dared to. I'm gonna tell you all of that I know that was taught to me. Tens of thousands of years ago, certain peoples migrated on foot out of eastern Africa, eastward over land bridges, into what is now Southeast Asia, the Western Pacific, and Australia. They brought with them the knowledge of fire and hunting and gathering, as well as other skills needed for forest dwelling. The descendants of these groups of people are today widely acknowledged as the First Nations peoples of the Australasia and Oceanic regions. Though there is great diversity among them, these peoples shared many characteristics, physical features included. The kinky hair and dark brown skin common among these peoples inspired Europeans to term them Melanesians, literally black islanders. Tens of thousands of years later, these people were joined by groups of agricultural and seafaring peoples who spoke a variety of languages that belonged to a language family thought to have originated in Taiwan. These were the Austronesian-speaking peoples. The Austronesians brought with them knowledge of crop cultivation and a refined seafaring lifestyle, unparalleled in most of the ancient world. The arrival of these people to the islands of Southeast Asia led to a great fusion of cultures as the First Nations mingled and mixed with the oceanic newcomers, and this fusion of cultures led to a great expansion into the remotest parts of the Pacific and Indian Ocean. After thousands of years of migrations, these combined peoples, our ancestors, had created an oceanic network of cultural and economic exchange that extended as far east as Rapa Nui and as far west as Madagascar. The number of languages grew, and the shared culture and technology of our ancestors expanded and were enriched by each successive voyage.
Wow, I never knew my ancestors were part of this whole culture.
Yes, but there's more. They also had a number of different tattoo cultures, brilliant tropical architecture, and various complex spiritual beliefs as refined as those of the ancient Greeks and Romans. This is all in addition to the highly sophisticated marine culture. Indeed, the prolonged contact over long stretches of ocean is evidenced by the linguistic and cultural similarities between the different nations. This all changed, however, with the arrival of foreigners. The foreigners have been at the neighboring island for a few moons now, and they refuse to leave. In fact, we have received word that they wish to come to our shores and compel us to follow their beliefs, just as they have converted our neighbors. I cannot allow it. They have brought with them diseases that our people cannot cure. They have overstayed their welcome and act more like chiefs rather than guests. There is nothing else to do but smite them before they destroy our beliefs and kill us. Those in power have said that we natives are incapable of self-governance, that we are savages without the capacity to compete and survive in this ever-changing world of ours, that we are unfit to be seen as equals. I entreat you, my reader, to give us a chance. See that we are civilized. See that we are capable of displaying good Christian values and are worthy of being your equals in the modern world. We have left the rags of indolence and savagery behind and donned the garments of the cultured world. Behold, I wear pants. I use money. I have forgotten the language of my forebears and have perfected your own. What can we do? The foreigners are stronger than us. They are wiser than us. They control all. But boy, are they ugly. We only work for them because we pity them. They don't seem like they can do the work we do. Someday, perhaps, we will have our time. Someday, we will become the masters. For now, we must be content to work for them. They depend on us as much as we depend on them. This is how things must be for now. It is time for the people to take power, occupy the government buildings and schools, overthrow the oppressors. We have had enough of the exploitation of our people, native lands and native hands. Give us sovereignty today. You see, Siapa, not all responses to colonization worked towards the same direction. But each response showed that our people were able to think and feel just as well as other people.
Yeah, it's amazing that I'm descended from these people. Yet, I didn't know any of this.
I'm not surprised. For far too long, history has been taught from very narrow perspectives. Oppressed nationalities of the world have not been able to voice their own views and their own stories. With regards to us, Malayo-Polynesian peoples have not really been given due credit by history.
It's sad but true. Anyway, I didn't catch your name.
It's Malaya. In my language, that means free. This song, an old folk song of the Ivatan people of the Batanes Islands in what is now called the Philippines, tells the story of a child's longing for a father who had been lost at sea during a storm.
The father was a fisherman. He was simply doing what he had done countless times before, when fate would have it that one night his canoe was to collide with forces beyond his control, and he would be lost forever, with his child rendered an orphan, with no guidance or direction.
The plight of native cultures the world over is analogous to this tale, in that generations of indigenous peoples are every day losing the essence of their respective nations to the overwhelming storm of modernization and development.
Indigenous languages, customs, traditions, and even the very people themselves have and still are being lost among the treacherous waves of imperialism and neocolonialism and other forms of social and cultural genocides and oppression.
In a world where words like savage and civilized are thrown about recklessly, who decides which means what and why are these concepts interpreted as they are?
Like many other regions in the world, the oceanic region's Aboriginal populations are facing the possibility of rapidly disappearing from the face of the earth, as waves of other cultures wipe out traditions, customs, and beliefs handed down from the ancestors.
Can oceanic peoples weather the storm?